This is sort of a map of Canada.
Right, like, hey guys, I'm just over here in Saskatchewan.
Well, I can barely see you, but I can hear you. It's nice to have you. Welcome back, Tegan and Sara. We were going to have a quick chat about one of the themes of this whole project, inspiration and education. Those are the two themes I wanted to touch on. But before we do that, I noticed that the tour that you kicked off is Let's Make Things Physical.
Yeah.
And having seen you over the years, you're more physical on stage than, is this like a workout kind of idea for?
Totally, we thought, why not combine a tour and a physical education regime? No, I think this record is a little more upbeat, and we've been playing more clubs, and people in our audience are dancing, and it feels weird to just stare at them. So when they encourage me, some nights it gets crazy. We just played our first headline show in South Carolina, in Charleston, and the crowd was so crazy, I thought I was going crazy. I was like ready to dive into the audience, which normally I do not want to go into the audience because it's too sweaty. But it's been great, it's been a lot of fun.
And you're in good enough shape to be able to handle this?
I don't know. Well, that's why I only do it for the last two songs.
Okay. Well, and the last time I saw you, I think the last time I saw you, I was sitting behind you at the Juno Awards, and it was this crazy night. This weekend, the weekend where you had gone in saying, we've never won anything, and then you won everything, or you won a lot. How have you had time to digest that?
I sort of think we haven't, maybe. We just pretty much just went back out on tour and have been touring since. We haven't received our Juno, so we're not sure it's real yet. It's kind of like buying a house, and until you get the keys and you've used the bathroom, you're just like, well, I guess I bought a house. I don't know. But it was a really wonderful weekend. We had all of our friends and family there, and it's true, in 14 years we've never won a Juno, although we have been nominated, which is still an honor. But this time we really won, to the point where I almost felt uncomfortable with winning. Like, it went from being like, yay, gratitude, to like embarrassed Canadian, like too many. We are going to donate one to someone else because we just feel embarrassed.
Well, you kid, but you guys are generous, and I don't even know if I'm supposed to out you on this, but Music Counts
We're gay.
Tweet.
Thanks a lot, Jian. Thanks.
This is the moment.
I can't believe this is happening right now here at the TD Cafe. I can't believe it.
Let me out you as well. But Music Counts tweeted this about an hour ago, and so I think it's, that's a news release, it's public. You guys, as part of this program today, are donating to Music Counts $25,000. So
it's actually 25,000 Tim Hortons donut holes we're donating. Kids need to keep their blood sugar up if they're going to do lessons.
It's amazing that you're doing that. This is a really amazing project, and we were talking about the importance to us of having a music room when we were coming up and how that shaped who we are. Can you talk a bit about why music education, working with young people in this cause, has been so significant to you?
I think for us, when we took music our whole lives, our parents, I think they used it as sort of like a music prison to keep us under control as teenagers, but we got a lot out of it, and especially when we were angsty, confused teenagers, I think it was an amazing way for us to connect with other people who had the same interests as us, and it also, in the end, ended up being a really good structure for us personally. We wrote songs after school together, we learned how to record and make music, so our music experience was so important and integral in shaping who we are. We just see it as probably being very significant to so many people. So it's become really a really big focus for us, this idea that we could help kids who come from homes where they couldn't afford, musical instruments or music lessons. We've focused on charities like that before, and we love the idea of keeping school programs or music programs going and making sure they have new instruments and proper teachers and education. And I think it's a skill and a place for kids to maybe feel good about themselves after being, I know for me I was terrible at math and science, but then I would go to broadcasting communication and we would record our music and our songs and make radio shows, and I felt like I wasn't a total idiot, and I think that balance of using that other part of my brain was really important growing up.
To me, it had the music room is I went to school for the arts, and there were instruments in the music room, which I was fortunate to have, and it became this magical place, this kind of getaway where you go explore and really kind of find an outlet for expression. Sara, can you reflect on what it actually means to have instruments in schools, what Music Counts does?
I know for us, our experience is very specific. We were musical people. I know there's lots of kids who are not musical kids, but I do think that it's a creative environment, and it's not, like so much of our education system now is about standardized testing, and it's about fitting within a very specific box and being quiet and paying attention and taking notes. And
We're not good at any of that.
We were not very good at any of that. We're still not very good at that. I'm really glad that the music industry doesn't have standardized testing, because we would fail. But we really enjoyed the community aspect of music class, like being able to collaborate and perform with each other. And it's like phys ed. It's a time where you can blow off steam, and it's still creative, and there's still a theory and mathematical element to it.
It inspires critical thinking.
It really does, yeah. And I think, for me, I get very sad thinking about, I'm, at an age where I'm thinking about having kids myself, and it really depresses me to think about it only being about all the classes I hated when I was going to school. Because even as a parent, now thinking from the perspective of someone who may be a future parent, I'm re-dreading school already. Like every time my girlfriend and I talk about having kids, I'm like, oh, but do we really want to have to do school again? Like, grade 5 is the worst, like, division, So I get excited about the classes that I was.
Sarah's going to be an exceptional parent.
Yes, very enthusiastic parent. Was grade 5 the worst?
I remember it started around grade 5, grade 6, where we started doing timed math tests. It's like, I still to this day, it's like we're crossing the border at immigration, and someone asked me a question, and I'm like, I don't know, I did it, it's me, just take me away. I don't know, if there's any kind of pressure applied to me, I completely melt down and turn into like a teenage runaway who just stole something from a VCR store or something. That was a weird analogy.
And yet kind of apt in an interesting way. So let me ask you about inspiration, because we're talking about music as inspiration and art as inspiration. This has been a huge year for you guys, really a couple of years, and you kind of haven't stopped touring. And I know you're going to be back out this fall with Katy Perry, and you're doing a bunch more dates. Are you thinking ahead to the next record? And if you are, in the midst of touring and being on the stage next to Roy Thompson Hall and all of that, how do you seek inspiration?
Well, I mean, a lot of our inspiration comes from the fact that we are never home, so a lot of things happen in our lives because of that. In some cases we end up grieving things very slowly because we're away from home, and so there's a lot of like missing and sadness and relationships like stuff and family stuff and just mortality. I mean, it doesn't sound, when I say it like this all sounds very bleak, but as you can see, we've turned it into like a
brand.
Yeah, but it feels okay. It feels okay to stand. It's very cathartic to stand up in front of an audience and say, yeah, I feel like crap, but do it in a way that feels upbeat and you can dance and stuff. So I think that our next record will probably still be very upbeat, but I think that we're going to cover a lot of really dark stuff and intense stuff like we always do, and I think we try to find the balance between dark and light, and I think like Heartthrob was our first very hopeful record. I think that even in songs that were sad, we were able to find the light at the end of the tunnel, and especially in songs like I think about How Come You Don't Want Me, and I think this song is all about hope, but it's all about talking about rejection. But it's how we interpret even each other's songs.
Tegan lately has been introducing a lot of my songs by saying, you guys, there's a really hopeful message in this. And
I feel responsible to point it out that as much as we have turmoil and sadness in our lives, we're able to turn it into something, a cathartic experience. And the people who are in the audience, a lot of them talk about how the community around our band and listening to our music has helped them through tough times. I feel during some of the darker songs, it's important to remind us all of that. It's as much for me as for them.
Well, Tegan, you've said you don't see yourself as just a regular band. You see yourself as a band that brings hope to a lot of people. So do you find that most bands don't do that?
I think all bands do that. I think that's what's so amazing and beautiful about music. I think you find the band or the community of bands that resonates with you, but I think Sara and I, for a long time, we were really just focused on being a band and about the music, and not that wasn't important, but I think that there was a point in our late 20s where we realized that it was more important, there was something more important, and we had a responsibility to our audience to be present and be honest. And
what precipitated that? What happened that you suddenly?
You get old, and you just realize it's not just about you. And I think that your 20s are for being selfish and self-absorbed, and I think as we hit our late 20s, we realized that
we could do something more meaningful with our music. And there was a change too in when we started, our audience were our peers. They were our age for the most part. And I think when we hit our mid-20s, we started to see younger people coming to shows. That dialogue started to happen where people started to say to us, oh, I live in this little small town and you're the first gay people I've ever seen in public in my age group with really good hair. And,
They said all of that.
yeah, they said all of that. Yeah, and then I was like, oh, well, there's really something here, and you know, and I mean, without going too deep into it, it's just, I think it did coincide with some life events. I know that in my mid-20s, I started to really grasp the gravity of coming from Canada and having same-sex language in a lot of our. Like, for example, I was going through an immigration situation, and I remember thinking, wow, like I live in a progressive country where there is access to, you know, to things that if I were living in the US right now, I wouldn't have access to. And it started to make us feel very political and want to ally ourselves with organizations that were making progress internationally. And that has nothing to do with our music. It just has to do with the fact that because of our music, we're able to get in the rooms with these people and say the things that we say and reach the people that we reach. So, yeah. And we really wanted to spread more good hair.
You get good hair.
There's nothing like saying, hey guys, you got good hair. I mean, if you can only take one thing away from this band, you know. I'm just kidding.
Thin your hair.
I need a haircut.
See, I was asking you, Tegan was talking about inspiration. Sara, has what inspires you changed?
I don't know if what's inspired me has changed, but I think it's impossible to delineate between, or not delineate now between, you know, what used to be just one big giant glob of stuff. I used to just write music because I wanted to write music and it was fun. And now I can't help but have to say, like, well, some of this is for me, some of this is for our band, some of this is going to be about trying to make music that's on radio, some of this is just because I have a hobby and it's music. You know, like I can't help now but think, well, these very specific issues are not appropriate for our band, or like, you know, it's just become more cerebral. I used to feel like it was more intuitive, and I just did what I wanted.
Is unrequited love still the gift that keeps giving?
I think so. I mean, I'm pretty open about the fact that if I never suffer another heartbreak, I have enough material. I could go back and press that. I could go back to that feeder and push the button over and over again. I mean, I think all of us can start to relate that once you've experienced one kind of loss, it's also easier to understand all kinds of loss. And we're specifically at an age where we're experiencing loss, different kinds of loss, not just relationship loss, but people passing away or being sick or struggling or losing their businesses, all of it. You just start to be more present, and I feel like I don't even need to write about love. I could probably manage to write a song just about what it's like to feel alone or sad or, you know, just kind of unsure how to proceed, and it probably could still be relatable. I could write a whole record about after India when I got an amoeba and I've never been the same. That's just the whole concept, right? It's sort of like Dark Side of the Moon, but it's Dark Side of the Intestine. It's really upsetting. We're just old. We're just experiencing things now.
You're not old.
I know, but we feel it. Like, you get.
Stop saying old. We're
Sorry, we're
Mature.
we're mature.
We've been around.
Senior.
We've been around. We've been around.
One of the things I said when I was introducing you guys was that I really meant was it feels like the world has caught up to you, and one of the ways that I mean that is I remember you guys. I mean, fairly or unfairly, were sort of people said that, oh, the confessional songwriters. You know, this is what early on you guys were. You know, laying their souls bare, and they're the confessional. And it was kind of, in some ways, seen in a derisive way by critics, etc. And now it's become, in a lot of ways, the thing to do in pop music. Or perhaps it's become, again, the thing to do. Can you reflect on that?
I want to say that on our last record, Sara was really into this specific artist who does a lot of songwriting and is a producer, but then put out his own record called The Dream. And Sara loved it, and one of the reasons why she loved it was she thought it was really interesting because it was this very kind of like, you know, hardcore dude who was like singing about missing his girl and like, you know, like all this like really emotional stuff. And she was like, I think pop music's got a lot of heart and soul, and I think we should be not so afraid to make music that sounds like what's being put out on radio, because we could infuse a lot of depth and meaning into it, and it would exist. And I remember thinking that Sara was onto something. And
My biggest fear with the internet is that we're all too like that our emotions have become very simplified. I think people emote all the time. That's a big part of why I think people caught up to us, is that we're probably much more of a mirror now for how people are. You know, people used to be much more private, and there was a lot more compartmentalizing of your feelings and emotions, and now it's a little bit more of a free-for-all on the internet. So I do think that we're probably, this could be seen as a pro or con, but I do think that because we're so confessional, people recognize themselves in us. But I also think that it's part of our mission right now is to make sure that it still is a clever and intellectual conversation. I don't want to just put out trite sort of vapid love songs. Like, that's not, although those songs can sometimes
Like who?
Well,
Like, she's looking at me.
sometimes I Tegan. Sometimes I do turn on the radio and I think, God, it's so easy now to come up with these clever little turns of phrase, and they're very addictive and they're really fun to sing. But I'm still very invested in, you know, in it's not just love songs or breakup songs. I mean, these are life cycle songs. They're songs that have a beginning and a middle and an end, and I think that has been lost in some pop music, and I hope we're bringing that back a little bit.
I had Owen Pallett on the show 2 or 3 weeks ago, and yeah, a lot of us love him. And he says, you know, I'm not sure where I'm at on this, but it was an interesting argument. He said he doesn't like the term confessional stuff because he thought it was a gendered term, and it's something that often gets applied to women songwriters and not to men.
Oh, I mean, our whole the first 12 years of our career, I felt like everything that was used to describe us was a coded way of saying they're totally lesbians and girls, you know, like confessional, folk, even when we were making not even remotely folk music. I think that those words are used to apply, you know, not just apply gender or, you know, these signifiers that seem to marginalize us, but it's also I think a lot of times it was used by critics, consciously or not, to reduce us also to something that wasn't intellectual or didn't have depth because it was too.
We're just crazy emotional bitches just out there.
Exactly. So I kind of agree. I would not use confessional. I think that's why I naturally gravitate to more like intellectual conversations around, you know, universal themes. I don't know. I'm always trying to like use these other words.
We're trying to create the language.
Yeah, make sure the press says that next time. Let me, before we end off, there's two things. I know that we got sent a bunch of tweets for questions, and I'm going to read one of them to you. This is from TNS Mom, who says...
I recognize that handle from Twitter.
Yeah, well, this is on Twitter.
She's great, yeah. I always favor her tweets.
And she says, what's your ultimate collaboration?
Well, I mean, we've done a lot in the dance community and done stuff in the rock community, so I think we are terrified / really excited to try something with someone in the pop world. I mean, you know, in the last couple of years we've met people like Taylor Swift and Katy Perry, and they're actually really strong, beautiful, intelligent women, and they're making music that we really like. So the idea of sitting down and collaborating with someone like that seems really interesting to me.
I have this sense that maybe what we're good at and what we can contribute is maybe behind the scenes. I don't know why that is. Like I'm still really into collaborating, but I also think that it would be interesting for us to do probably some songwriting with some of these people that Tegan mentioned. And I think that's mostly just about wanting to use. I think that we are very good at what we do, and we've learned to be very good at what we do. But I also think there are limitations to our instrument, meaning what we're capable of in terms of our singing. But
yeah, I didn't mean sing on stage with them. I mean, Taylor Swift is so tall. We would just be the weirdest collaboration.
You've been on stage with Taylor.
It would be strange. But I am interested in seeing how, you know, like some really next level pop stars could potentially teach us something and take material that we've written and maybe take it to the next level. So.
All right. Well, last question. I feel like we're having an ongoing conversation because I'm going to see you 2 weeks from now in Vancouver, and we're going to do something similar. But given that this is, you said you're going to get to go home after this, right?
Yeah.
Which I don't even know where that is. Where is New York?
I don't know. They just point me in the direction.
Somewhere is home,
the
right?
airline, yeah.
But so, given that you're heading into a bit of a break, and ultimately you'll be heading into a new album cycle and stuff, you were so thoughtful in terms of wanting to do something different. Still sounds like Tegan and Sara, but something different on Heartthrob. Do you have a sense of what the next thing you want to do is?
I think we're both very comfortable with the idea of continuing on this path and pushing it as far as we can push it. I mean, we're interested less in like mainstream success and pop music. We're just actually interested in trying new things and pushing the boundaries of our band. I mean, we pushed really hard with Heartthrob, but I actually think we've grown so much stronger that we could push even more. And I think we said this earlier today, it does have less to do with success and fame and money and all the rest of it. It just has to do with keeping us interested. You know, we have been doing this a really long time. Last year we were working, 280 days. Like, we have to be 100% invested or else we're not going to do it. And I think in order to be 100% invested, we always have to uncover new ground. We have to try something up here that we haven't done before.
It's always a pleasure, and it was so much fun seeing you play today again.
Thank
Tegan
you.
and Sara!
Thank you.
Nice TV Music Cafe. There's more music coming up, so don't get the ground. They'll tell you what it is.